We're going to talk in this session about data, what it's worth, how it gets stolen, and where it pops up once it gets stolen. And everybody instinctively knows that data is valuable, that there's a value to data. For instance, this is the disclaimer for this session. In this session, the disclaimer says that you guys know a couple of things, right? Now, in the hypothetical case that I would ask you now to sign up a paper giving me your name and your email acknowledging that you read that, you'd probably be suspicious, like, why is he asking me that? Why is he asking? If data wasn't valuable, you would not even be wondering, what is he going to do with my data? Where is that data going to end up? So we all know that data is intrinsically valuable. The first time I realized this, that was a long time ago, and I'm going to show my age giving you the story, but it was in 2001. I was 10 years out of high school, and I wanted to reconnect with some of my classmates from high school. And back then, 2001, the only place that I could manage to do that, it was on a website called classmates.com. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's a website where you can search for your classmates, and then they will show up, right? But if you wanted to actually interact with them, chat with them, or know more about their lives, photos or whatever, then you needed to pay. And it was like a $20 per year. So it wasn't incredibly expensive, but I never paid, right? It's kind of a mean way, because you could see them, but you have to pay to interact with them. Now, fast forward a few years after that, I moved to a new country. I was working in Ireland. And in the office, everybody was telling me, that was 2005. Hey, are you on Facebook? Like, Facebook? What is that Facebook thing? I have no idea what Facebook is. And so I signed up. I said, what is this Facebook thing? Look, well, it turns out that on Facebook, you can interact, look for your friends, interact with them, and it's for free. You're like, oh, really? What? I mean, I understand the classmates.com has servers, have maintenance, they need to pay, right? They have employees. Facebook, they don't, right? Of course they do. Who's paying for that stuff? My data. So I am the one sharing my username, sharing my history, sharing my friends, my likes, my dislikes, whatever. And with that, that's what's paying. My data is worth something. And everybody realized that. The government has realized that data is worth something. Corporations, of course, have realized that data is worth something. And guess what? Criminals have also realized that data is worth something. That's what they're after. They're after our data. This is definitely not working anymore, right? Oh, sometimes it works. So what is your data worth? Your data, that's what we're going to find out. What kind of, where it pops up and who steals it. The criminals steal it in 4 different ways. There. So you have rats, so remote access Trojans. We have database leaks. But the most popular nowadays is the one at the right-hand side, info stealer malware. And we're talking about a malware that once it infects your PC, then it takes their best effort to gather as much interesting data as it can. So it goes through your browser. For instance, every time that in your browser you use Amazon, probably none of you have to enter your Amazon account anymore, right? It's memorized somewhere in the browser, right? Now, that password, it actually exists somewhere on your hard disk. These info stealers are very good at locating where those things are, where they are memorized within the browser, retrieving them, and then sending them to the malware creator. They do that for credentials. They do that for crypto assets. If you happen to have a Bitcoin account, Coinbase account, or the wallet, the crypto wallet there, directly they pick it up and they send it to the bad guy. And they do that with a number of things. Like, there's many things that bad guys are interested in. So we try to enumerate. We took a look at the top 16 info stealers, trying to see what they're interested in, what kind of stuff they're trying to steal from your infected PCs. And we found, well, we tried to categorize them in 5 tiers based on how easy to monetize they are. You can call it, if you guys are in the financial sector, the liquidity of the data, how easy it is to convert data into money. So we make 5 tiers. We called it data actionability. There you go. So if we make a comparison, an analogy with a stolen or lost wallet, the most actionable, the most liquid asset would be the cash. Immediately, if you lose your wallet, the cash is out immediately. That's money. In the data world, that would be your cryptocurrency. Like if you have any crypto wallet, if they steal it, it's gone. The money, you're not seeing it anymore. Those Bitcoins are gone, completely liquid, 100%, right? That would be tier A. That's the best one. That's what they want, right? Number one. There will be a second tier where they have to put a little bit of effort. It would be like finding a credit card on a stolen wallet. So it is not 100% liquid. You have to have a little bit of an effort, but it's not much. I mean, a credit card, it's a pretty good asset to steal. In here, it would be the equivalent of web credentials. Web credentials are pretty nice. If you have, for instance, somebody's email credentials, then you automatically have their Facebook, their Twitter, anything else. As long as you know the username, then you can just reset the password and you have all of those. And you can sell them away, directly sell them away. If you have an email, then you can give it to spammers, and spammers can spam through your email starts sending crap straight away. That's very, very easy. So it's relatively simple. It needs a little bit of effort, so it's not immediately monetizable, but it's a pretty nice asset. Tier C, D, and E are a little more crap. Tier C would be the equivalent of your work badge, right? You can do things with it, but you really need effort. You really need to put some effort. That would be the equivalent of, say, other credentials like gaming. A gaming credential, you can do stuff with gaming credentials, right? You can log in and try to, for instance, find if there are virtual assets in your game and try to sell them away or steal them or move them somewhere. But it needs we're talking about a level of effort that a criminal might not want to take, right? It's difficult. D, it's already pretty useless. We're talking about the equivalence of your gym membership or your Starbucks loyalty card, right? I mean, you have to be very creative to monetize that. It's not impossible, but it's pretty difficult. That would be the equivalent of an FTP password, for instance. It's not very useful. I mean, yeah, you can get in through somebody's FTP server and find some data, but how do you make money out of that? I mean, not easy. And tier E would be the lowest. The lowest would be, in the wallet analogy, the lint in the wallet. Like it's just decoration, the wallet itself. You can't make a lot of money out of that. And that would be, for instance, they sell screenshots, a screenshot of the infected system, or the system report of the infected system telling you all of the versions of the installed software. How do you make money out of that? It's very, very difficult, really, really difficult. In here, I would add also your Wi-Fi password of your home's router. And it's pretty useless in itself. And I was telling this story to one of my workmates, and he's very conscientious, very thorough. He was telling me, no, David, my password is very important. Wi-Fi is very important. I said, yeah, but look, these guys are in the other side of the world. What are they going to do with your Wi-Fi password? Not a lot. I mean, they would have to go near your home. What for? To steal your internet access? I mean, that sounds like not worth it, right? So, in my opinion, Wi-Fi would fall into the lint of the wallet. Absolutely useless. So what we did is we categorized all those 16 info stealers, trying to see what were the feature sets of each one of them and giving them points. 1 point for the E tier and 5 points for the A, trying to see how many points they can amass based on their feature set. And this is what we got. I appreciate it's very small, but it's in the left, there's a list of those 16. For instance, the first one is Blackguard, the second is Radamantis, based on the feature set, all the way down to Ducktail. Ducktail is a piece of crap thing that it only supports web credentials for Facebook. It only goes against Facebook, which is pretty useless in itself. I mean, if you don't have Facebook, if you're infected by that, you couldn't give it a crap. It's like getting nothing. So this is just analyzing the feature set, but that's not the full analysis, because we don't know if any of these 16 programs are any popular among bad guys, right? Bad guys, for all we know, might be favoring one of them, and that would skew the analysis. What we try to do then is try to see which ones of these are actually popular, are actually used by criminals. It's very difficult to discern based on samples, so we didn't do that, because you know what we detect as Trojan red line, somebody else detects as Trojan agent, and somebody else detects as Trojan generic. So it was very difficult. So what we did is we went back to VirusTotal and tried to see the mentions of those programs, trying to see the level of samples that people were tagging on VirusTotal, each of those samples, trying to gauge the amount of those samples that there was in the wild. And we got like down to six tiers. The top one was Redline, but not even close. There was 2 million mentions on Redline, and the next one, it will be Lokibot, Mars and Aurora with around 200K mentions. That's like one order of magnitude between the first tier and the second tier, all the way down to the 6th tier with up to 300 mentions. That's pretty much nothing. So the last ones, pretty much nobody's talking about them. Nobody has seen them. They're not out in the wild in big numbers. They're more for targeted attacks. Now what we did is we gave scores to each one of these tiers from 1 to 6, and we multiplied the scores before with these ones. So what we get is a mix between actionability and their popularity in the wild. So we get this. Now, whereas before it was Blackguard, now, of course, Redline was the number one because it had 2 million mentions. So now, Redline goes all the way up along with the other. The first 5 were pretty much on par. We're talking about finding already the creme de la creme, the ones that the bad guys favor the most, and that steal the most valuable kind of data. Now, this is a post-infection. That's the way we read it. This is a post-infection risk matrix. So it's trying to answer 2 questions. If I was infected by InfoStealer X, how concerned should I be? Now, if you're infected by Redline, we should be very concerned. You know, that's pretty much guaranteed that it's taking a lot of stuff and it's valuable. Now, if I'm, on the other hand, infected by Ducktail, how concerned should I be? Well, you shouldn't be much, right? And there's graduated in the middle with different scores. So those are the 2. This is a post-infection risk matrix for the top 16. Now, yeah, but where does the data go? Where does it pop up once they steal it? What do they do with it? No? It turns out that the bad guys, what they do is they have a number of marketplaces. There's 2 that are the main ones, but those marketplaces work kind of like eBay. So they offer stolen data up for sale, and it's up to the criminal who buys it to decide what to get and how to get it. Let me show you. I appreciate these very small screenshots, but otherwise, it just at a glance you can see that there's a bunch of stuff. That's one record from the US. There's 3 records from the US. The last one has a bunch of domains. Those are the domains that a prospective buyer, a criminal buyer, would be interested in. So there's a lot of, for instance, Amazon.com or eBay.com. That's a very, very good one, very big one. That guy, that victim from the US, got all of those stolen. So in their browser, they were memorized all of those passwords for all of those domains, and that's what the criminal who put it up for sale is trying to sell you. And the right-hand side, it says buy. There's a buy button, and there's a price. It says $10. And there's also a breakdown of a folder telling you what kind of assets there are. There are passwords. There are also the screenshot, again, useless. And there's a few things, you know, not only the passwords, but they give you, if there is a crypto wallet, it would be there shown. There's a crypto wallet here. But you can't actually search for it. So you can search for crypto wallets, but you can't search for everything. They're very much geared towards displaying, indexing, and selling domains. So if you, up there in the search box, say Amazon.com in the US, it will give you a number of victims that have Amazon.com credentials stolen, and you can get them for about $10 a piece. And you can, along with the Amazon.com, if the guy had a lot more credentials stored on their browser, you'd get all of them as a package. Now, it's up to the buyer, to the criminal buyer, to judge whether they can make $10 off of that or not. Like for instance, if I'm the bad guy and I see eBay.com, I might think, well, maybe if it's a big seller, a big eBay seller, yeah, I can scam a lot of people trying to put up imaginary products on eBay and scamming a lot of people. I can make $10 the second day. That would be no problem. Now, if there's an empty eBay account, you could only get maybe the Amazon account. Maybe you can get a Hotmail account or a Gmail account. Is that worth $10? It depends. It depends. It's up to the bad guy to gauge whether that's worth it or not. This is, I said that there are two main ones. This is one, and the other one is this one. Again, very big. This is only one thing. The first one, I didn't break it down. The second one is the breakdown, most of the thing. So you see there, the breakdown in the file, it's very similar. They're different websites, but the features are very, very similar. This one is from Zambia. And I chose it because it's very clear that this guy is from the university. So there's a University of Zambia website credential. There's also ResearchGate.net. So if you're in the academic field, you'll notice that ResearchGate and Elsevier, they have academic publications. So probably this guy is either a student or a professor. So if you look at this and you look at the price is $2.60. If you can monetize already for $2.60 the email and the access to the university, you can probably make back the $2.60 pretty quickly. And I would say even that there's other side of the criminal business who specialized on selling accesses to networks. So if you have a university username and password, you can already give it to the guy who sells access. We call it access as a service or access brokers, and they would take it. They would take it without any problem, a username and password. If it's a professor, it will be even more valuable. So straight away, you can see where the data ends up. Now, what's interesting to us is that the dimension that we haven't looked before up until now is how accessible, how easy to find are the data. Now, we made 4 tiers here. One for the web credentials. Web credentials are very easy to find because they're very indexed, very well indexed. So if you go for, I want to find Amazon.com, AliExpress.com, eBay.com, straight away. Very well indexed, very well shown, very well done. In second place, it would be cryptocurrency. So if you try to find cryptocurrency in those search boxes, it's a little more difficult. It's not so well indexed, but you can find them. It's not impossible. In third place, it would be specifically Outlook, because one of them has a place to look for Outlook. So email is pretty easy to find. Not as easy as web, but easy to find. Like it has to be Outlook. It can't be any other kind. So the fourth one would be all the other stuff, like screenshots and all that stuff. It's not as easy to find because you have to go record by record, go through the breakdown in the folders and try to find whatever you're interested in. So it's a lot more difficult. So those from easier to find to least easy to find would be those 4 tiers, which we can incorporate to the first actionability to see which one of those are easier to find in the underground. And we get this graph where pretty much the same, but Blackguard goes up now along with Radamantis. Why? Because those are the ones who have the most amount of stolen data that is the easiest to find on the marketplace sites. So it's, again, if you look at it from the InfoStealer side, right? If you look at it from the column side, of course, crypto wallets are the number one, and website credentials are the number one. There's no doubt about that. You know, that's going to be the bottom line of my talk, like hands down. But in here you can see how the shift, again, we're seeing more or less the top 5, top 6, it's pretty stable. It's always the same. It kind of matches with what we are seeing. Now, when we looked at these marketplaces, there's one thing that called our attention, which is for every record, it tells you what InfoStealer stole it, which is super interesting because we don't have to guess anymore. We don't have to guess at which are the most popular ones. No, we can see straight away which ones are the ones who stole those things that are up for sale. And in the bottom side, you can see that there's 5, only 5 of them that were showing up constantly. Actually, there were 3, and then the other 2, the 2 in the bottom were almost anecdotal, very, very small numbers. So it was Raccoon, Vider, and Redline. Those are the big ones, the ones that produce the most stuff that pops up on criminal marketplaces. So if we redo, taking into account all this data, we redo only with those 5, we can see that the most concerning one is Vider, then Redline, and then Raccoon. The other 2 are anecdotal, very small. So Vider, Redline, and Raccoon are the most, the ones who produce the most stolen data, that steal the data the most, that pops up most often on criminal marketplaces. That's something that's already a good finding, right? So like when we talk about InfoStealers, oh, there's so many, which ones are used? Well, those three are the ones used. Those are the ones who steal the most. And another thing that we did, because we already had access to these marketplaces, was if you saw that the guy that stolen, the first that I showed you was from the US, and the second one was from Zambia. So we could see the countries that they were stealing from, right? So we counted how many of those were from each country. So we made statistics just to find out the country that had the most stolen logs, stolen data, was India, followed by Brazil, Indonesia, and the rest. They were all developing countries, right? So we thought, okay, we can't leave the analysis at that. We should check which one of these actually have the most internet users. The internet user base is important because these people have so many people. India is very big, right? So if we take into account that variable, trying to see India versus how many users, internet users are in India, maybe we'll see what are the most concerning countries, right? And we find a completely different stuff. For instance, Portugal goes number 1 by far, by far. It only has 56,000 stolen logs popping up on marketplaces, but the internet population is very small, 7.6. It means that there's a very large portion of internet users in that country, in Portugal, who have their logs stolen, their passwords stolen, as opposed to, for instance, India, who had lots, but they have lots of people, so the percentage is much smaller. So it's logs per million users is what we use, and if we make it a percentage, Portugal would be the 100%, but the next one would be Brazil at 50%. So that's how big of a head start has Portugal in having their logs stolen. This, read it in a more graphical way, would be like this. Would be Portugal, that's the top 5, and then we added some European, and I didn't put the US because the US was so far down, so it's not a meaningful amount of logs were stolen. It was like 2.16 compared to the 31 the first one has. So the US is way, 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 way down. But it serves to kind of compare how Europe fares compared to other developing countries. And Portugal is obviously an outlier because it's way up there. So that leaves me with a conclusion. There you go. So first conclusion, I mean, I was getting to that and I already mentioned it. Crypto is the most monetizable asset. I mean, You lose crypto, it's just money out of your wallet. You lost it. There's no way to see it again. It's like losing cash. And web data is the most often sold asset. It's the most useful. It's the one that pops up the most, and it's the one that we all should be very concerned about. If you lose your email credentials, you lost your Twitter, you lost your Facebook, you lost your Instagram, you lost your YouTube, you lost everything. So very concerning. What to do? Well, if you work in a company that has to do anything with Bitcoin or with crypto, protect your crypto assets, like hardware if possible. Put them onto a hardware. Don't leave them just hanging around in your in a text file on your PC, because they'll find it. Like all of them, without fail, all of them try to find it, except for Ducktail, which is a Facebook very specific one. All of them, they try to find crypto assets. Web data, 2FA whenever possible. So if you can, protect it with multiple factor authentication. If possible, use password manager. So if you're in a corporate environment, having a password manager nowadays, it's easy, it's cheap, and you guarantee that you have it encrypted in-house, not in the cloud, so you can control that environment. And if possible, I mean, it is possible to not store web credentials in a browser. Lately, my Chrome is asking me my fingerprint or my master password in order to access. So they're getting there. They're trying to put fences to the ability of an info stealer to pick up those encrypted, those credentials stored on the browser. But if possible, do not store them in the browser. Use a password manager. But because it's very easy, it's incredibly easy for them to just go and pick up any memorized password on the browser. And that's all I got for you. Thank you very much. We have plenty of time. So if you have questions, we'll be glad to address it.
Hi. When you say save crypto in hardware, do you mean like on a thumb drive?
There are devices that store your crypto wallets in a hardware that it's already encrypted. So that's what I would recommend. So if you put it on a regular hand drive, yeah, it's a step up from leaving it on the file system, but it's not super secure, because anybody can just pick it up and see it. Whereas if it's encrypted in the hardware level, then only you can see it.
Thank you.
And whenever you need it. Sure.
So you mentioned that these accounts are listed that have crypto wallets attached to them. Why would the people running the malware that's stealing these in the first place not just strip off the crypto wallets and take those for themselves and then sell the rest of the credentials when there's like you said, liquid cash basically there that they could take? Why are they reselling that at a loss for whatever people are willing to bid for the account?
Want to take that?
We assume that they do, actually. So when it comes to stealing your data, the assumption is that when they get the crypto wallets, first of all, they drain it.
Oh, so they do drain those. Okay.
That's what you assume. We don't have the visibility on that. And, again, as a company, we don't indulge into financing criminal activity, so we can go and, buy the samples to check. But the assumption is that it's fairly easy. You got the crypto wallet or you got the credentials to the application, so you might want to drain it immediately, because that's immediate cash. And it's going to be more worth it than the $2.60 you're going to sell everything else.
Right.
So yeah, that's the assumption. Might be that for logistic reason or time reason, they might just pack everything and put it on sale immediately, but my reasonable expectation would be that they just resell everything. That they just drain the wallet before reselling.
On the other hand, what we're seeing also is that these people, when they upload new stuff, they upload in bulk. So they upload maybe 2,000 records, 5,000 records. So there's the possibility that they might just collect everything automatically, create a big lump of data, and then just dump it out without even looking at it. But we can't know. Again, he's completely right. We can't know because we don't have visibility on that side. We only see what pops up on the marketplace.
You only see the end product, yeah. Kind of as a follow-on to that, if nobody else has a question, I was wondering, do you index the value per account at all? Like, you have metrics that you've shown of how many per million and whatnot, but I would imagine that like a, you know, credential from the U.S., even though it's a very small representation of what you're seeing out there, still on average would be of more worth per account than say one from Zambia, like or Brazil or India. Is that a data point that you've looked at to try and determine the, you know,
The prices.
value per account by country or okay?
We haven't, but that's certainly a possibility that those prices, you see the fluctuation in prices was big. So the one in the US was worth 10, and the one in Zambia was worth 260. So it might have to do with that. But we haven't done the full analysis because there were like lots and lots of records, and the prices fluctuate. Because I think that when the record starts getting old, the prices start to go down, and you can see.
Kind
I
of
haven't
as they
shown
lose
here, but
confidence
you
in
can
the
see-
likelihood that the records can still be exploited.
Instead of 10, you can see 5 and 2, and then there's a small sale logo underneath.
Okay.
So we have seen that. So it's very difficult to track down those, and we were not interested in that. But it's a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, you need to be fairly careful when you're scraping those data points because these marketplaces are, you know, very wary of people trying to scrape the data. And so that little access that we might get to the marketplace might get revoked immediately if they just hint that we try to automate grabbing their pages, for example. Yes?
Any idea why the U.S. was so low on the list? That's kind of surprising.
Huge internet populations compared to, you know, the amount of stolen records. That's the biggest surprise factor. Like when you just see the numbers of the absolute numbers of sold records, you get a certain image, and you kind of tend to be biased, like, oh, India getting so many records and so on. But then the surprises really happen when you normalize by the actual active internet populations, and you figure it out that, you know, maybe there are countries that should look into it more than maybe some third world countries, for example.
That's precisely why we normalized it, because we saw India #1, and of course India has a huge population. So it's like, maybe if we normalize it, we're going to see something different. And actually we did. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll give you some time back. Thank you.